My name is Art Patience, and I'm from Seattle, Washington. I play the harmonica, and I got into playing because as a kid I would hear it in my head, as well as my dad owned a harmonica. I couldn't wait to get my hands on it, but I always had to sneak getting it because if he was gone at work, I could get up to this top dresser drawer by pulling out the bottom drawer, and I'd get up to the top and there would be his harmonica. I brought that harmonica. Today I have it, and my dad gave this to me. It needs a little work, but this is the original harmonica that got me started as a harmonica player. Of course, it was shiny back then too. So another way that got me started in the harmonica was my mom was a classical singer with the Seattle Chorale, and I would attend Seattle Symphony concerts at the Seattle Opera House probably 4 times a year. So by the time I was 15, I'd gone to over 40 of these concerts with her singing with the Seattle Symphony. And the music was just pumped into my head. Of course, I'd fall asleep. I'd always fall asleep at those concerts. My sister says, "Why do you come to these? You just fall asleep anyway." My answer was, exactly. So the symphony would start tuning up, the 90 voices would start tuning up, and right when they began playing whatever symphony they were going to play, I'd start going off into dreamland. And music just was flowing through my head. And at age 11 is when I got my first harmonica and started playing. I met Sherry Fender January 2 years ago. I was performing in Phoenix at a venue with pianist Scott Cossu. And Scott and Sherry had known each other prior to, and Sherry was our guest artist to perform that night with us. I had been performing with Scott for 20 years, so the songs I've known inside and out from endless venues with him, but never had the chance to have a guest artist perform a lot of the same passages in songs that I myself perform on. So Sherry's flute and my harmonica were like already kindred spirits. And we did several shows that weekend that just were memorable shows for everybody. I got involved with Sherry in terms of her record company. Several years later, she invited me to, actually it would have been a year later, invited me to compose and record a song for her holiday compilation, Christmas from the Heart, featuring Arizona artists. And that's how I began working with Sherry and Heart Dance Records. What got me into New Age music must have been primarily working with Scott Cossu back in the mid-90s when I began working with him. But also parallel during that time, I was seeking more of a slower, more contemplative harmonica, more instrumentals I was writing that were, again, slower and melodic. So the New Age music, I think Scott Cossu was the transition between blues and New Age, because he would end up performing both on stage when we play live. The other, to answer your question about the guitar, is I've always wanted the guitar to be an accompany instrument for my harmonica. The harmonica is really the voice, the tones in which I would like to share with the world, and the guitar is a supportive instrument. So there's one song that I play the guitar by myself on the album, which is the first song called Compassion, and that's my guitar work there. And the other song that I accompany the guitar with Darren Mahoney is the song Safe Journeys. But I don't tend to want to feature the guitar, my guitar, too much. It's just there. When I play live, I like to have a guitar to back up my harmonica. So I'll a lot of times play the guitar and the harmonica at the same time with the harmonica on the rack. But other than that, the harmonica is my main instrument. I was in college in the early 80s at Evergreen. The music program was going through a bit of a glitch where the top faculty had moved on. And so the music department was open for a lot of creative interpretation. So during that time, I developed my own music program, including the harmonica and composition, music theory, and live stage performance. So I put up a notice in the music building that I was interested in being in a rhythm and blues band. And all of a sudden, the band, I got responses immediately, and 5 of us put together a working rhythm and blues band. Within several months of rehearsal, we were already playing live gigs such as the college dances, local taverns, and then we began to spread out from there, playing all around the Northwest. There's a lot of memorable shows with every ensemble. Several of them we were called the Midnight Rhythm Band, and several of our memorable times where we got to perform live on the college radio station, KAOS, Chaos Radio, still exists today. And we also got to record for an album project that was a compilation of other artists that were around, coming out of that music program. So within the 3-year period of time, we had played hundreds of gigs all around the Northwest. And I gotta say, one of my most memorable times was playing on Friday Harbor at the San Juan Islands. And we got a gig at a country bar, and it's just so Blues Brothers, because here we were, this 5-piece rhythm and blues band, a bit on fire, pretty excited about what we had to promote. And nobody liked us at all. Why? Because we were not country. And our hair was a little longer than the crowd wanted it to be. And even at break, we felt that tension, like, okay, we're playing the wrong kind of music in a real roughneck part of town here in Friday Harbor with an audience that really is disappointed they're not getting their country music. So that was just one of those memorable times during that period of time, when many people who maybe I would say non-musicians, even though they're musicians in their own right because they love to listen to music, but I've talked to other musicians about this as well. I'll hear comments from people like, oh, I'm so happy that you're doing what you love to do, and you're following your bliss. And you know, there's many times in my life though that actually hasn't been the case, because as a musician, it's almost this sense of forced expression. In other words, there's times in my life where I've tried to sort of put it aside, take a break from it. And you know what? My life has just slowly gone downhill. So I stopped. I went, oh my God, I better get back into music because my life's gonna be crumbled. So sometimes it's just to maintain a balance in my life. It doesn't have to be peaked and exciting and wonderful. I just have to do it so my life doesn't fall apart. And that, I'm smiling on that because I meet lots of other musicians who have that same sense about them sometimes of like, I have to create to stay alive. The other is that these tones, the music, and especially the tones of the harmonica, will just pound into my brain, and if I don't express them, it'll just take over and start driving me crazy. So maybe I do it just to stay sane. One challenge that I'm sure many musicians have is a song as a composition will be documented in my mind and maybe documented on paper or recording. It's a song idea. And for example, let's take the one song, Flight of the Butterfly. I wrote that song in 1999, and my original recording with it was with a percussionist. And then I would listen back and I'd say, I like it, but something's missing. Something fundamentally is missing. So then, as a folk rock artist in Anchorage, Alaska 4 years ago, like you mentioned, I did record an album, and I wanted a couple of instrumentals in there, so I chose to take another crack, another shot at Flight of the Butterfly, see if I couldn't improve the chance to record that song. It came out pretty good. We had the drummer and bass player, and we made a production of it, and still is very unsatisfied, but did not know what was missing. So then I meet Sherry Fender, and she inspires me to slow things down. So I sent her a copy of Flight of the Butterfly recorded at home, slower version. She says, oh, you're getting there, I like it, but can you slow it down more? And as soon as I dropped the tempo, something I would have never have dreamt about doing, as soon as I dropped the tempo dramatically, the song finally had its missing element. It finally had what it was looking for all this time. Now I listen to some of those older recordings, and it sounds like Alvin and the Chipmunks are just way too fast. What I'm working on right now are live shows, lots of live shows coming up this year, as well as working on a second and third album that are sequel to the album Recognition. And in order to stay up to date, you can follow Heart Dance Records website, as well as my own website, artpatience.com.